Welcome back. Today I have a friend of mine, Stu Schlackman. Stu Schlackman last year released a new book. The book is called Sales Sagas, and he talks about relationship selling. And relationship selling, as you know, correlates very, very strongly to, first of all, my whole concept that trust is relative. The whole trust premium framework, where you need to really connect with a very specific customer. And I'll tell you one more thing about Stu. Stu was one of the first people to welcome me and welcome me very well to the National Speakers Association, our chapter. Stu was the only person in NSA North Texas to actually serve as president of the chapter 3 times. Every time we can find a president, we take Stu, and he just says yes. He can't say no. But beyond that, when I started embarking on the Trust Premium framework, Stu was one of the first people that I reached out to and asked and used him as a sounding board. And I think that what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him directly about his concept of relationship selling. How does that fit with trust and so on? So without further ado, I'm going to talk to Stu right after this. Welcome to The Trust Show. I'm Yoram Solomon, your host, the author of the Book of Trust, and facilitator of the Trust Habits Workshop. My mission is simple. I want to help you form habits that build your trustworthiness, because the answer to this question will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you? And welcome, Stu.
Thank you. Thank you, Yoram. It's a pleasure to be with you, as always. As always.
So I just promoted your book. I read it. One of the first things that attracted me to your book, I know you're going to think that I'm very, very shallow, is the font. You use the font that I love very much. I love using. But let's get serious. Your book actually has 3 parts. You talk about sales skill, you talk about relationship and connections, you talk about the pipeline and processes. You talk about 4 types of customers that a salesperson needs to realize that which one they're dealing with. And you even have an assessment that you use with your clients. And I think you used it with me some time ago.
Yes.
So
yeah, we did.
That really correlates with trust being relative, and the same behavior that can cause one person to trust you in this time we'll talk about a customer would cause one customer to trust you could cause another customer to distrust you. So just to kick this off, can you tell me a little more about the 4 types, the blue, gold, green, and orange?
Yeah, I use a color-coded system because it's easy to remember a face with a name with a color, and it's easy to remember the characteristics of a color. And to put it into perspective, there are a lot of models out there, Myers-Briggs, you got DISC. There's one that's called the 4 social styles of selling. And so your blue is your amiable. Your orange is the expressive. The green is the analytic. And the gold is the driver. And my premise is this: it's not how you sell, it's how your customer buys. And if you miss the connection, they're not going to trust you. Therefore, they're not going to buy from you. And that's the critical thing, is to understand who you're with. And you could do that by asking a couple of key questions. And that's how I could identify somebody, by asking those questions.
Can you share what are those questions?
Sure. If I was to want to sell you something, let's say I was going to sell you a computer, which I used to sell, I would say, Yoram, when it comes to buying a complex computer like this, what's most important to you? And based on your answer, I could determine, there's a good chance, what style you are. For instance, if I asked you that and you said, well, the most important thing is that I have quality and I have capability, and the computer will never go down, because the most important thing is the security and safety of my people. If it's around people, it's a blue personality. If it's about great quality at a good cost and a strong return on investment, and the financials have to be right, and you got to be a world class company, you're probably gold. If it's I want a great deal and I want this to work so well that I get promoted and I beat the competition, I'm an orange. And then if you get into the details and the speeds and the feeds and can I upgrade the computer in a year? Can I do this? Can I do that? You're green. So depending on the answer, I could tell. See, the blues want safety, security, quality. It's around the people. The golds are around the financials, the stability, and that I'm working with the best company. The greens want the best solution. It's all about problem solving, analytical, and everything like that. And the oranges just want a great deal that's going to achieve what they want right away. And so, the oranges are into a good price and good service. Greens are into quality and capability, expertise. Golds are into that financial return and great quality. And blues about safety and security. The second question is, so when it comes to your existing system, what have been the top challenges that you've had? Your answer to challenges will also align with those parameters that I gave you around safety, quality, service, and everything like that. And also, when you start out a sales call, a lot of salespeople always prepare a sales call from their perspective because my personality style is my default system. Here's the problem. I like to start out with small talk. There are two personality styles that don't. Let's get down to business. Most salespeople will ignore that start and still continue on what's important to them. You got to shift to what's important to the customer, or you're going to lose trust right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny. I made a list of questions to ask you, and as soon as you gave me the first one, I'm coming up with I'm getting completely off script.
Yeah.
So the first one is, how do you know that when you ask these questions, how do you know that the customer tells you what they really feel as opposed to what they want you to think about them? Maybe they don't
Ah,
even know themselves well enough and they think they're giving you the right answer. How do you know that they're giving
yeah.
you the right answers?
I would have to ask confirming questions
Okay.
to see if their responses are real, legitimate. Like, so if I heard you correctly, you're saying so and so and so and so. Is that correct? Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that? And then I could see if their addition aligns with what they originally said, or maybe they're going to shift the conversation. And also reading body language. Um, you could identify personality through body language. For instance, my brother Scott, he's a blue, a lot of eye movement, body language, and he's reading mine. Because the most important thing, believe it or not, to a blue is trust. Blues will never buy from someone they don't trust.
Hey, look at
So
my
they are,
background.
yeah, yeah. So what they're doing is reading body language for trust, and that is extremely important. The golds will be looking for high integrity. Integrity aligns a lot with trust, but golds come across very confident because they are the driver. In my personality book, I call them the director. The blue, I call the relator. The green is the detective. They're going to drill me on questions.
And the
And the
orange is the
orange is,
activator.
yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
So
the orange is the activator. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
you just brought up another interesting point. I didn't even get to my next curveball that just came up, but you brought up something else that's interesting.
Yeah,
In my trust premium, my whole research on trust premium, as you may remember, started really
yeah,
in 2018 when I asked the question, what's the most important quality? And trustworthiness ranked the highest in salespeople at 77.6%. 77.6% of people said the most important quality for me in a salesperson trying to sell me something is their trustworthiness.
yeah.
And then I wanted to see if people are willing to put their money where their mouth is, and I wanted to see if people are actually willing to pay more. And what I found was that they were willing, and I gave a very specific home renovation project. I gave an example, a salesperson that's trustworthy, another one, not that it's not trustworthy, but you just don't know them. The premium was almost 30%. People were willing, on average, to pay 30%. So here is my curveball question to you. And actually, I think you're kind of already started answering it. Will the trust premium vary with the four different types?
Question.
Would some
It
of them, let,
depends.
let me rephrase it,
Yeah.
would
It-
some of the four value trust more than others to the point that they're going to be willing to pay more?
yes. The blue and the green,
Okay.
because those are personalities that price is not important. The
Okay.
gold and the orange, the price is more important because the orange always wants a good deal and they will negotiate for it. But also, the orange is the big risk taker. So oranges typically automatically trust you unless you backstab them in a way, and then you'll never hear from them again. In fact, they'll go on the internet and badmouth you on Yelp like nobody else.
So you're
But oranges assume trust.
okay. So what
Believe
you're saying is that Orange would look at both of them and say, "I'm going to extend trust to both of them, so there is no trust premium because of that."
yeah, yeah,
That's very interesting. I never
yeah,
thought about that. So because one of my trust premium framework of how do you help a
yeah.
company identify, first of all, identify the customers that are willing to pay higher trust. What you're saying is, hey, here are a few questions. If you can categorize that customer, if you find that this customer is someone that cares, an orange personality, that's somebody you're not going to get trust premium from. They're not going to be willing to pay more because they trust you, simply
Right,
because they also trust the other person.
right. The gold personality is the personality that buys the consumer report and starts comparing different companies, prices, functionality. They research that. And then they'll make their decision based on your reputation. And the way to continue and build trust with them is with follow through. Are you the type of person that follows through and does what you say you're going to do? That's very important to the gold personality. Now, the two that, yeah, go ahead.
So the gold personality, I guess I'm trying to read back what I'm hearing. I guess what you're saying is that the gold personality relies more on transferable trust. So it's not so much what I get from you right now as it is what I heard about you before.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then you have the green personality that's automatically, they're a skeptic. That's why I call them the detective. They ask a lot of questions. They don't use the consumer report. They go to the internet and they will research everything to the point that they know as much as you. They're the ones that go into Home Depot to buy a grill and they know more about the Weber grill and how it's built than the salesperson. And so they're skeptical and they'll put the salesperson on the defense. And a salesperson that's put on defense, if they don't realize they're with a green personality, they're going to lose. And there's lower loyalty with the green. I have a good friend. You might have met him, Trevor. He helped me write my first book. He's a green personality. Every 2 years, he would change his phone from an iPhone to a Samsung. He'll go from Verizon to AT&T just to keep them on their toes. He doesn't have loyalty. He's always changing vendors. I mean, that's just the nature of the green. If they see a new technology come out that they like, they'll abandon what they have to take the new technology. And then you have the blue, who is totally everything is about trust. they will pay more every time for that trust, because trust is about reliability, consistency, predictability, and partnership. The relationship, and that's why the blue is the relator. That's most important to the blue, is the relationship, without
So
a doubt.
let me try, if you don't mind. Let's try
Yeah,
and kind of do a role playing a little.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you are a photographer.
yeah.
You are a very good photographer. I am the customer,
Hmm.
and I need to hire a photographer to shoot. And by the way, one of the things in Trust Premium, my framework of Trust Premium, is this thing varies. The Trust Premium varies not only between or across industries, but even within industries. So if you think about the Trust Premium in a photo shoot photographer in the studio taking headshots, what's the worst that can happen if they do a bad job, versus hiring a wedding photographer where if
Mm,
they do a bad job, they're not going to be any pictures. So let's say that
yeah.
I'm arranging a wedding for my daughter. I'm not, hopefully not in the near future, but let's say that I do, and I need to hire a photographer. You are a very good photographer. How would that process go from the beginning? I called you. Um,
Yeah.
how would you first of all identify what type I am? And I'm going to try and play as real as I can, as if this is
Okay.
see, I'm already starting to think about other things I need for
Okay.
their wedding. But
Okay. So I would say, Yerm, hey, thanks for your time today. I'm glad you called me. When it comes to this wedding for your daughter, tell me about how you envision the event. In other words, what is most important to you when it comes to your daughter's wedding? And what is most important? What is the top priority for me, if I'm chosen as the photographer? What is most important for me to please you for this wedding?
well, we're trying to save money on the wedding, so we're trying not to spend too much, but we want that to look like something. The pictures, the videos, we want it to look like something that, that you would look fondly back at, 10, 20, 30 years from now. So it's important that we get good pictures, even though, this is not the Ritz hotel where we're having it.
Okay, very good. So you're saying that a good price is very important to you. Quality of the pictures is important, and and that they could reminisce 30 years from now and remember and look back at those pictures and just say, "This is fantastic. I loved it. I remember the day." Is that so? That would be
Yeah.
what's most important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want them to. I want the pictures to be good, but I don't want to spend too much on it.
Okay. What do you worry about? In other words, when you hire a photographer, what are some of the concerns that you might have the day of the event? Are there any at all?
Oh, the photographer. I thought what I worry
Yeah.
about in general. I worry about
Oh.
where do I hide the body of her fiance if I need to get rid of him because he didn't treat her well. But that's not what
Yeah.
that's not what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
in terms of the photographer, again, the number one is this wedding is not happening again. I mean, those pictures have to be good, and
Yeah.
and I'm an amateur photographer. I have a very entry level camera, and I found that the best pictures are not the pictures where you ask the subjects to stand next to each other, but the pictures that they don't know are being taken. So pictures
Yes.
like that, having a lot of pictures like
Yeah.
that would be important to me.
That is great. And that's what I like to focus on the most, is those special moments where nobody's looking, where I could catch the bride and the groom's expression and they didn't even know that picture was taken.
Okay.
So right there so far, I know I got you down to either a gold or an orange, and because of that last comment about the pictures that they don't even know about, it's an orange.
Okay.
Orange is like the element of surprise, and they want that that fantastic shot that nobody else will get. And if it was a gold, it is about that event being perfect that day, structured, organized. In other words, I have an agenda. Right after the wedding, we're going to spend 22 minutes on pictures. After that, we're going to cut the cake. After the cake, we're going to have the first dance. That is a goal. The orange says, I'm going with it. I
Yeah.
want the surprise element. But because you started out with cost, I understand that's important. And I know that you're either a gold or an orange. And
You know,
that's how I would develop that conversation with you to support what I think is most important to you. I would try to predict that I'm gonna throw in the element of surprise. I'm gonna be all over the room. They're not even gonna know I'm gonna be there. They
yeah.
won't even see me. I'm gonna be camouflaged, something like that.
Yeah, so let me ask you something. When you say this, first of all, I think you nailed me down pretty well in terms of orange. I looked at your definition from the book of orange:
Yeah,
energetic, persuasive, thrive on
yeah,
excitement and immediate benefits,
yeah,
competitive. Oh, yes, I'm competitive.
yes.
Adaptable, excelling dynamic environments. I think that pretty much defines me well. I wish I was gold because I like gold more than orange, but it's orange. It's a color.
Yeah,
Um, but here's something interesting. I noticed that you were not just confirming what I was saying or my answers. You were building on them in terms of what you will do.
yeah.
This is going to sound pretty aggressive. Were you lying to me, or are you pretending to be somebody you're not, or are you saying, well, this is how I'm going to behave with you, and it's still me?
It's still me. It's still me. If I'm a really good professional photographer, I got all the capabilities you need. I'm going to highlight the ones that are most important to you. That's what a
Okay.
good salesperson will do, is they will highlight to you what's most important to you. That's why I asked the question, when it comes to buying a computer or hiring a photographer, what's most important to you? And
Okay.
that's what I'm going to play to.
So it sounds like I'll have to tell you a story because reminds me of something. But it
Yeah.
sounds like what you're saying is the customer may be one of the four colors, but a good salesperson knows how to work well with every one of the four.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Are there salespeople that can't? That if
Yes.
I'm going to start asking the questions, I'm not even getting to the first question from what I wrote
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
episode, but this is very interesting. So, are there salespeople that are going to go through your questions and after a while realize, oh, I'm talking to a green or I'm talking to a blue or whichever color, and then go, this is not the perfect customer for me, or I'm not going to be the perfect, in this case, photographer for them, and
Yeah.
I shouldn't engage them,
That's true. Well, a good, honest salesperson would say, I don't think I'm a good fit.
and it can
I would,
happen.
it could happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The
It's
problem,
the story.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, the problem with some salespeople is it's so that when I do my workshops, I talk about emotional intelligence, and I know you know a lot about that. There are three elements that we all have. We all have a personality style, we all have emotional intelligence, and we all have an IQ.
I
Okay,
would argue
IQ
the
is,
last two.
yeah. Here's what I believe: if you understand personality styles, you could drastically improve your emotional intelligence if you want to. There are some people that have low emotional intelligence. They're stubborn. They're set in their own ways. They only focus on themselves. And others are interested in building connection. And therefore, if we understand personality styles, we could improve our emotional intelligence by adjusting and adapting to the style of the other person. That's what we need to do, especially in the world of sales.
If we
Because like I
can.
said, it's not how I sell, it's how you buy.
Yeah, but
And
but
I
if
need
we
to
can,
understand.
because I
Yeah.
think we're both going to agree, it might not be an issue of emotional intelligence or IQ.
Right.
It just might be a matter of, and this goes back to one of my components of the trust model, the relative trust model, personality compatibility. I don't have
Yeah.
to be exactly the same as you, but I have to have some level of compatibility with you. And if I don't have it, um, at least have enough the integrity enough to say I'm not the right person for you.
Right. Yeah.
Does that
And
happen a
I
lot,
used
or have you seen
I
people that?
yes, I used to coach a company that built pools, and one of their top salesperson was so busy because he was so good at what he did. He would give the final price, and then what he would do is say, "Here's the price. Right off the bat, I'm going to take $5,000 off of it because that's what I'm allowed to do as a representative of this company. So the bottom line price is $55,000." And they would take it every time because he was a person of high integrity and trust, had a great reputation. And sometimes if they said, well, no, that's still too high. And he goes, totally understand. If there's another company out there that you want to do business with, I support that. But give me a call if you change your mind. And he's so busy, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so he's not going to barter with them. He just said, here's the price. And by the way, we build our pools differently. We use a half an inch rebar instead of a quarter of an inch. So the odds of the pool cracking is 1/10 of a regular pool the way they build it with quarter of an inch rebar.
Okay.
And he'll explain the quality.
You, you
And
know,
most of the time, yeah, they come back and they buy.
so I probably don't need to tell you, but typically, and kind of this is the common wisdom, what is
Yeah,
the least trusted? What type of salespeople are the least trusted type?
typically the orange.
No, 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 not from
Oh,
your
oh,
types. What do they sell? The least trusted salespeople.
what do they sell? Cars,
Used cars, right?
used
It's like
cars.
whenever you want to talk about somebody who is less not trusted, you go, oh, he's or she is like a used car salesman, right?
Right. So
One
funny.
of
Yeah,
in all my life of buying cars, the one person that I went back to 3 times to buy 3 more cars from was a used car salesman in
wow.
BMW. I I actually bought new cars from him. Actually, except for the first one. The first one was used. The next 3 were new. He did exactly what you said. He said, uh, first of all, I had such a great experience with him buying the used BMW, the first used
Yeah,
BMW, that I went back to him and I asked him, can you sell new cars? Because he was at a BMW dealership. Can you sell new cars? And he said, I can. And so I pointed out, and to some extent, I am one of the types. What was it, Gold, that does all the research online? I mean, I went to him with 2 VIN numbers. I told him these 2 numbers you have in stock; they meet all of my requirements.
yeah,
He said right off the bat, he said, I mean, you're going to have to give me one because unless you want to buy both, tell me which one. And he said exactly what you just did. He said, I am allowed to give you $4,500 off the price. I'm not going to play games. I'm giving you the $4,500 period. Um, I don't know. To me, that was something that just made me come back to him again and again. The next car I bought from him, Stu, I
yeah.
didn't even see. I just I told him, here's
Bought it.
the VIN, here's the number, you have it on stock. He said, I can get you this price. I said, do the paperwork, give me a call when the paperwork is ready. I came over. The only thing I was all of a sudden I was nervous about, I came in with a tape measure. I opened the back door to make sure that one of my radio controlled airplanes would actually fit there, which it
Yeah,
did. But
yep.
I didn't even take the car on a drive. He had all the paperwork ready. I just had to sign. I trusted him.
That's how an orange. You're an orange. That's how an orange buys. In fact, the orange will say, "Get the paperwork ready because I don't want to waste time when I get there."
Hey, if
Oranges
I'm an
want,
orange, you're an apple.
yeah.
So,
That's the way the orange buys. When oranges trust someone, it's automatic to go back and do business with them every time.
so that brings
Every
another
time.
interesting point, another question. Actually, one question that I did write before this episode, and that is, uh, there's trust. To me, I separate two time periods. The time period that leads up to the purchase decision, the moment that I make an irrevocable decision to buy from you.
Yeah.
And then there is what happens after that. Now,
Yes.
I think you will agree that a big part of what happens before that is actually transferable trust. Somebody tells me that I can hire you as a photographer, you're a good photographer, and so on. I just did, it's funny you're talking about pool. I just remodeled our pool. Well, not
Yeah.
me, I hired someone.
Yeah.
And, so many companies, once I started reaching out, so many companies reached out to me. And the one I chose was actually one that was one of two that were recommended by people I know and trust. And they used them and they said, these are good. And I ended up hiring the more expensive one because in my firsthand experience with exchange with them, there was something that made me trust this person more. Uh, but let me ask you this, things like this, pool renovation, even buying a car,
Yep.
that's a one-time deal. However, you still want to maintain trust after the purchase decision for a very simple reason, and that is this is your outbound transferable trust. This is where they're going to recommend you to others. How do you maintain that trust after the purchase?
Follow up. I'll follow up a half a year later and say, "Hey, you're just want to touch base to see if you're still happy with the job we did on your pool."
Okay.
Um, I'll give you a great example of that. Our good friend Tim Marvel. When Tim was a car salesperson years ago, he would always send out at the end of the year 200 postcards to the people that bought a car from him that year and say, just wanted to say Happy New Year and see if you're still happy with your car. He got more repeat business from those people years later than anybody else because he's the only one that followed up with them. And that was memorable. So when you follow up, in fact, one of the stories in my book, I did work. In fact, I met him this week. This is the VP of Information Technology at the old Digital Switch Corporation in Plano, which became Alcatel. And Steve, when they got bought out, said, Stu, um, we've been doing a lot of business with you. You're probably not going to hear from me for a year. So did I not call him for a year? No. I called him every month. I had lunch with him. I wanted to see how his business was going. How's the merger? What's going on? At the end of that year, a big opportunity came up. I won it just because I stayed in contact with him the whole time. Also, the first time I did do business with him, I gave him a proposal and he told me most likely they were going to choose Oracle. And sure enough, they chose Oracle. I called him up. I said, Steve, can I have a meeting with you? I want to find out what I could do better next time. We met a month later for a game of golf right here behind my house. And at the end of the golf game, he says, come to the car. I got something for you. I said, what is it? He says, it's a proposal to build a contract administration system on the Oracle platform. And I said, great. So I'm assuming we're competing with Oracle. He said, no, I'm just giving it to you. I trust you enough now. And sure enough, that was a deal worth $170,000. I could probably say that now because that was 25 years ago. And to this day, I go to Rangers games with him. We're going to his house for the Cowboys game on November 24th. He's a good friend of mine. And we've built that relationship over 25 years. And
So,
that's how I do business.
let me ask you this question. You brought something to my mind.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
bought cars, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
drive a car,
Yeah.
you bought cars. Do you remember
Yeah.
the name of any salesperson that sold you a car?
No.
Douglas Robbins. Douglas Robbins. He likes to be called Douglas, not Doug, and
Wow.
Douglas with one S, not two. That was the name of that BMW salesperson. You just
Wow.
made me think about it. The last time I bought a BMW was 2013, because in 2015 I got my Jeep Wrangler, and ever since I just want the Jeep Wrangler. Nothing wrong with BMWs, love the BMWs, but I just remember his name. I'm connected with him on Facebook, and it's everything that you described. Let me
Yeah.
switch gears for a second and
Yeah.
ask you
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah.
Uh, let's talk about the front end. Let's talk about the funnel. You know, we all talk about a funnel, but I can't tell you how many emails I get in a day that I erase immediately if my spam folder didn't already catch it. I
Right.
don't know that you knew that, but the
Right.
U.S. alone generates more than 8.6 billion spam emails per day. More than half of the phone calls that I get come with the caller ID that says
Same.
um, uh, what it says, telemarketer or spam risk and so on. I don't even answer them. Back
Yeah.
in the 1990s, the success rate of a cold call was between 8 and 10%. Today, it's about 1%. How do you reach a customer you don't know?
You need to be very specific. You need to open up. First of all, you're going to get voicemail 95% of the time. You have to open a call, and I actually help script some of these. I would say, "Hi, Euro. My name is Stu Schlackman. I'm with XYZ company, and if you're not familiar with us, we deliver so and so. Most of our customers, like ABC and CDS, um, have been using us for the last 20 years and have seen a rate of return of 33% because of this. I'm just reaching out to you today to see if you would be interesting to hear how we help them out. For instance, a company that I coached for several years up in Frisco, they cold call every day and they make about 50 appointments a week for a demonstration on their software package. They're well known in their industry, but they're very specific and targeted. So they call someone that they know. And they'll name drop accounts that have used them that the customer would be familiar with. So it's very hard to do these days to just in a horizontal market and you're selling a widget to reach out to people. It's just not going to happen. You got to be very specific with a purpose for the call and a reason for them to return the call. I got to pique their interest. So I actually develop scripts on that, but it depends on the market and the industry and what we're trying to accomplish. Very hard to do. Most people, I reject, like you, hundreds a day of spam emails. I mean, you don't buy from people you don't know.
Yeah.
Why would I pick someone on LinkedIn to tell me they're going to triple my pipeline in a month and I got to pay them $3,000 up front? I mean, you're an author of many books. Think about all the publishers that reach out to you to give you a marketing package for $5,000 to triple the amount of books you're going to sell. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them because I did it once before and nothing happened. I wasted all that money. So, you know, you don't, the trust is very low today in a cold calling market because people are more knowledgeable than ever before. Even though, like you, my wife went out to Echo Park in Plano and bought a car. She was so happy. I went there a week later and bought a car without even thinking about it from the same person. And I'm very happy with the car. I mean, same thing. But when I was 19 years old, my dad took me to his friend that sold used cars. He showed me the first car, and I said, "I'll buy it." And my dad said, "Why are you buying the first car?" I said, "He's your friend." I'm naive. $500 for a 1964 Impala. My father says, "Well, look at the clutch pedal. Look how worn out it is. There's only 33,000 miles on this car. Why is it so worn out?" And I said, "Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. I bought the car. I went up to college And while I was getting gas, I saw a sticker on the side of the door, 83,000 miles, last oil change. I called up my dad and said, Dad, your friend robbed me. He put the mileage back 50,000. He said, I told you not to buy the car. I said, Dad, he was your friend. And I got screwed.
Yeah. By the way, I would say the fact that the clutch pedal is so worn out is a good sign that the engine was disconnected from the wheels for long periods of time and therefore did not have any load. So I
Yeah.
think we're getting to the end. I want to
Okay.
ask you one more thing. What advice
Yeah.
would you give a salesperson on relationship selling? A new salesperson who's just getting into the business of selling, on relationship selling, other than obviously get the Sales Sagas book
Yeah.
and read
Yep.
it back to back 3 times. But other than that, what advice would you give somebody who's just getting into the area of sales and actually is asked to start just calling people? Here is the list, start calling people. What advice would you give them?
I would say have the mindset and the attitude that I'm here to help you. I'm here to help a customer. Therefore, the emphasis and focus is not on me and what I want to sell, but on the customer and what they need and want to buy. So the person needs to adjust and adapt to what's most important to the customer. And that's why I like to ask the question up front when it comes to buying something like this, what's most important to you? Because it's not what's most important to me. I want to earn your business. So what do I need to do to earn your business? And I will adjust accordingly. And that's the mindset a salesperson should have.
Okay, that's great advice. And again, I would recommend that they read the book. Where would any of our listeners can find you?
My website, StuSchlackman.com. And the book's there, and the book's also on Amazon. So
Now, do me a favor, do this.
do this.
This is where you're gonna see how to spell Schlackman
Yeah.
right under Stu's picture.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stu. Stu, it was great having you here today. You really reinforced a lot of the things that I talk about, a lot of the things in the Trust Premium. I really appreciate your friendship, your advice,
Yeah.
being a
Same here.
sounding board. Thank you for being on this show.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jerome. It was great. Always great being with you, my friend.
Thank you. And for you, the viewers and the listeners, as you can see, there is a premium on being trustworthy. There is a process. Trust is relative. Look at Stu Schlackman's relationship selling process and read the book, Sales Sagas. Thank you for being here with us today. May trust be with you. This was The Trust Show. If you enjoyed this episode, like it, subscribe to this channel, and get informed when I release more episodes like that. And remember, the answer to this question will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can you be trusted?